Well, hello again. I found a bit more stuff. There's quite a lot of these lectures from this Bulgarian UFO conference back in 2018. This is the same lecture that Eamon Ansborough claimed first contact with an extraterrestrial species. Gary Heseltine told us that witnessing a UFO was the same as witnessing a murder. It failed to mention, of course, that if you're witnessing a murder, there would be a body, there would be a suspect, there would be a murder weapon, there would be evidence, there'd be blood on the ground to show the police. If the police came along, there was no body, there was no suspect, there was no murder weapon, there was no blood on the ground, there was no evidence whatsoever of a murder, they would probably nick you for wasting police time. You can't compare that with witnessing a UFO sighting. It's ludicrous. Now, the president of ICER is this chap here, Roberto Pinoti. And he's doing a lecture at this place as well in Bulgaria. It's still windy and raining here, which is why I'm still playing around with the internet and videos instead of doing other stuff. And there he is, Dr. Roberto Pinoti. I haven't actually Googled him to see what he's a doctor of, but his presentation is not terribly good, I would say. We go back to his presentation. He references George Adamski. He shows a picture of Adamski's flying saucer, you know, the typical 1950s flying saucer that turned out to be the lid of a tobacco humidor. And he's just going to go on and tell us a little bit more here. Now, this is not a photographic image. This, I think, is just a sketch. And it looks an awful lot like the thing the History Channel did to show the UFOs over Washington in 1952. It might even be... It probably isn't now. But that, of course, was... That wasn't real footage, and that was footage created by the History Channel for going by the descriptions that they got. So that wasn't an actual film of UFOs in Washington in 1952, just in case you're wondering. Anyway, this looks a lot like it, but this is apparently Rome.
We spoke about this, why UFOs were seen in Italy.
И всички са коментирани това, защо НЛО е видяно в Рим.
Maybe they like pasta.
Perigo was a consul and had a very particular opportunity.
Той е бил посланник и имал много особена
I don't think I could have stayed awake, to be honest, during this conference.
възможност.
In fact, he was a witness of a very particular event.
Той е бил свидетел на много специфично събитие.
The manifestation over Rome of an incredible UFO formation.
Манифестация над Рим на невероятна НЛО формация.
That is, two V-shaped formations formed each by 20 UFOs.
Имало е две V в формата на буквата V формация, които са състояли от 20 НЛО.
Formed a Greek cross over the Vatican in broad daylight.
Които са формирани.
So this chap witnessed this, and nobody else witnessed it. It's a little bit odd. There are no photographs of it. Again, we just have another sketch and a cross over the Vatican. Really, they formed a cross over the Vatican. I think the only thing that doesn't make this a little more laughable is the fact that the cross part here isn't sort of a bit further up here. Then it would just be completely ridiculous, wouldn't it? So very unimpressive stuff. This is the president of ICER presenting this.
Гръцки кръст над Ватикана.
Perigo wrote 4 books.
He wrote 4 books. So let's make it a quid or two out of it.
About what at that time were called the dischi volanti, flying saucers.
Той е написал 4 книги, които
So, okay, and there's Adamski's humidor lid again. So this fellow wrote 4 books about seeing a number of UFOs forming a cross above the Vatican, and the best he can do is present an image of a tobacco humidor lid and a sketch. So there's zero evidence for this actually happening. They've looks like they've lost part of the what they've had to do here probably is just crop a bit of tree off. So I think this is the Adamski picture, isn't it? It's the light bulbs under the lid of the tobacco humidor, and they've just drawn a bird's beak on here just to you can still see this thing's completely hollow. You can see a bit of light there shining through one of the holes on the other side. It's just an empty can, this thing, and it's got a little thing on top, and they filled in that. Well, there was a loop in the original picture, and they've just filled that in just to make that look a little bit more convincing. And you know, this is typical 1950s science fiction flying saucer, alien spacecraft, advanced alien spacecraft that are capable of flying around the galaxy are not going to look like this. This is just rubbish. It's drivel. So anyway, this is the presentation by the president, and to even mention Adamski, I think, and show images like this tells us that we really can put a line through anything ICER has to say. This new international coalition for extraterrestrial research. These people are not researching. What they're doing is they're repeating a lot of science fiction tales from history, and they're not backing up any of their claims with actual evidence. So just before we move on and have a look at something else from the Bulgarian UFO conference, sources over Washington DC. Now, doesn't this look rather a lot like what we just saw? With the flying saucers over the dome in Rome. I wonder if the sketch of the flying saucers flying over the dome in Rome was in fact inspired by this artist's impression of the flying saucers flying over the Capitol Hill in Washington DC. Look very, very similar, don't they? I mean, there's so much bloody nonsense in the UFO ET business. Sources over Washington DC, and there we go. And that could just as easily be, without that caption, sources over Rome, couldn't it? All right, let's have a look at another one of these Bulgarian UFO conference presenters. This is another presenter at the 2018 UFO conference in Bulgaria, Kate Thorvaldsen. Now, she claims to remember being abducted as a child. You know, she's standing up in her crib. Anyone here remember standing up in a crib? There she is, holding the skull of the Star Child. Now, this sort of gives you an idea of the sort of calibre of people presenting at the UFO lecture, where we've seen the president of ICER, Gary Heseltine, and Eamon Ansbro presenting in Bulgaria back in 2018. And really, you know, if this is the sort of thing they're going to be looking at and presenting, then I think ICER is going to be a complete and utter waste of time. So, I don't know if we can see it there. And she says, oh yes, well, the Star Child, you know, it's obviously not human, looks nothing, is it? And if we actually go to the Star Child Wikipedia page, it says the Star Child's skull is part of a malformed human skull of a child who likely died as a result of congenital hydrocephalus. It received widespread publicity after paranormalist Lloyd Pye, sorry, I'm still reading this through the camera viewfinder, claimed it was of extraterrestrial origin. And you know, sort of looking at it, I suppose, you know, you could jump on the bandwagon and say, oh yeah, that's got to be an alien. It doesn't quite have almond-shaped eye sockets, but you know, you could probably get away with that one. It looks strange enough that we could make a few quid out of this one. But blimey. DNA testing. Where are we? DNA testing in 1999 at the Bureau of Legal Dentistry, a forensic DNA lab in Vancouver, British Columbia, found standard X and Y chromosomes in 2 samples taken from the skull. Novella considers this conclusive evidence that the child was both male and human, and that both of his parents must have been human in order for each to have contributed one of the human sex chromosomes. Further DNA testing in 2003 at Trace Genetics, which specialises in extracting DNA from ancient samples, isolated mitochondrial DNA from both recovered skulls. Oh, there was more than one, was there? The child belongs to the haplogroup C. Since mitochondrial DNA is inherited exclusively from the mother, it makes it possible to trace the offspring's maternal lineage. The DNA test therefore confirmed that the child's mother was a haplogroup C human female. Okay. The however goes on to say that the female it was found with was of a different group, so it wasn't the kid's mother. That doesn't matter. What matters is DNA testing shows the skull is human, and the poor kid died of some terrible ailment that produced that shaped skull. Now this woman here further goes on to claim, where was that? Was that hang on, let's just find the. Okay, I think it sort of starts about here. Yeah, there, maybe. See what she's got to say about this.
I think that the implants are helping me to receive information.
Мисля, че имплантите ми помагат да получавам.
So she's claiming that she's been implanted by aliens, and that the implants are helping her receive telepathic information.
Информация.
Because I have never sit down in meditation or anything.
Никога не съм седяла в положение на медитация и нищо такова.
But still I'm getting downloads of astrophysics.
Но все още получавам.
She's getting downloads of astrophysics, but she doesn't present anything. She doesn't actually put up on the screen some samples of these advanced astrophysics that she's downloading telepathically from the aliens. So she could show the professor of astrophysics and say, "Does this make sense to you, Professor?" or is this just a lot of gibberish that my subconscious is coming up with? She doesn't present any evidence for any of this at all. Oh, she does stick some magnets to her nose at one point and shows a diagram of some magnets stuck to different places on her body. She shows a magnet stuck to the side of her nose. She does it on both sides, and she leans over so the magnet doesn't fall off. But of course, your nose is hollow, isn't it? There's a couple of tubes that go up, so it'd be very easy to just put a couple of bits of metal up your nose so that a magnet will stick to your nose. I mean, this is just, party tricks 101, isn't it? I don't think I'll bother showing that. But I mean, if this is the sort of thing that they're looking at, it doesn't really. It's not really looking good for ICER, is it? It looks like it's going to go down the same old path. All the fanciful yarns. For the president to even mention Adamski, I mean, good heavens, really? There was a clip that I didn't show that he said that he asked Luis Elizondo if Eisenhower actually met aliens back in 1952. You know, there's a story that Eisenhower disappeared for a couple of days and he went to meet some aliens in 1952. Goodness knows why aliens would want to meet a president, the president of America in 1952. I mean, what on earth are they going to glean from that? This Pinoti chap asked Luis Elizondo if this was true, that Eisenhower had met some aliens in 1952. And Elizondo's response was, "I'm afraid that's classified." So as I've said before, why would you involve Luis Elizondo in any of your investigations into this subject if all he can do is stand in front of a camera and say, well, yeah, it's classified? Well, you know, there are some things I can't talk about. I can't tell you that, you know. What is the point of having Luis Elizondo on the scene at all? All right, well, it's only a short one, this one. I think that'll do for now. So, as I said before, you know, if this is the sort of people you're going to get involved in ICER, you know, you've got Gary Heseltine with his ridiculous examples. Eamon Ansbro telling us all he's made, you know, first contact with aliens back in 2016. You got the president of ICER referencing George Adamski and showing pictures of his tobacco humidor lid, and a sketch of a cross. Some UFOs forming the shape of a cross above the Vatican. Really, come on. You know, I could do better than this if I was in a bloody coma. All right, well, let's hope we see something more realistic from somebody in the not too distant future. You know, someone that will be able to say, "Hey, I had this experience, and these are the pictures I took, and you know, this is a bit of video that I took, and here's a sample of something I actually took from the spacecraft." You know, and it's analysed by a reputable laboratory, and they say, "Well, yeah, this is actually quite." You know, super exotic synthetic material. It's extremely low mass. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know how you would reproduce this on Earth. So when something like that happens, then it's going to be worth a look. But until then, I think we're going to just hear the same old nonsense, the same old science fiction stories. And I think if I can't take ICER seriously, the UN's certainly not going to take ICER seriously, and no governments are going to take them seriously. Well, thanks for watching as always. Maybe I'll catch you again.